Here today with the Fujifilm X-A7 and a manual lens. This is a Asahi Super Takumar 50mm f1.4, in this case adapted to X-mount. I had to pull the memory card from my phone just so I had something to use in the action camera. There is a benefit of having these dials up top. One, it's set to a full manual. I noticed when I was in shutter priority, even if I had a manual ISO, it wasn't changing the exposure on the camera, you know, the live view exposure. So I'm not sure what was with that, but I went to full manual. I can adjust things with this top dial, shutter speed at least. Of course, the aperture is on the lens. I have the camera currently set to peaking high with red. It looks like Fujifilm has a few different modes for manual focus, but in this specific camera, they're not in there, which that's kind of messed up, because if it's a software feature, you know, I thought Fujifilm was the one to give people a lot of stuff, but in this case, not so much. I do have to say this joystick is nice when I have gloves on. It's got a bit of tactile feedback. It's popping out, so it works nicely in this case. I figured out where the zoom in focus is. You have to long press the joystick nub and then select zoom into focus by pressing the joystick nub. Yeah, there we go. So we have zoom in and we have peaking, which is the same as my EFM cameras. Too bad you can't do peaking and zoom in at the same time. I would be curious to see the other modes that the more advanced Fujifilms have. They sound pretty interesting, like split prism, and I can't remember the other one, but it's in there. It's like someone left a little Squirtle or something. I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of the grips usually on Fujifilm cameras. I did like the X-T2. That was probably the nicest one I've tried. This one's not terrible, but there is a lot of weight on the opposite side of the camera. In this case, I've got minimum focus on the lens. I can just move the whole camera back and forth with a zoom in to try to get the right spot. So far, the handling is not terrible, even with gloves. I mean, it's probably equivalent to the M6 Mark II from Canon. I haven't used that camera yet, but they have a similar design, except for the screen flips to the side on this one. That one flips up. They have kind of a boxy, no viewfinder setup. Here, I'm just gonna guess pretty much, because there's so much that could be in focus. It doesn't matter that much to me at the moment. You don't always have to use f1.4. I've been using f2.8, 5.6, f4 most of the time, but that was 1.4 right there. I think one benefit of this specific screen, it's pretty high resolution, especially compared to other cameras, maybe 2 million something dots. Even if I'm not zoomed in, I can still get a decent idea, but of course zooming in is always better. And go to smaller aperture. Let's do f4 and just the shutter speed to compensate. This little thing popping out of the snow. functionally nice. The way that it can be used is pretty nice as well. Ergonomics. In this case, I can easily adjust the aperture. That's the quickest way to change the exposure in this setup. So if the aperture isn't something important I want to focus on at the moment, I can just easily adjust that to get a decent exposure. Even with the long distance, I think it's a good idea to zoom in just in case. There's always a little bit of play with the infinity focus. If you go all the way to the end, it might not be where you want. Usually you get the blue from the water, but in this case, not so much. Doing the zoom in kind of distorts my positioning, so sometimes I'll take one or two afterwards. It's a lot of little interesting things here. Would have been a nice one for the telephoto. With all those bikers. I do have the screen set to default, I'm pretty sure, and it seems bright enough. Doesn't need to be perfect. Get a little bit of symmetry going. The way the zoom in works is that you press once, and if you have pressed the shutter, it'll jump back out, which is actually pretty nice. So I can recompose a little bit. But of course, you don't want to do too much because then your focus will be off again. I feel like I can focus pretty well without zooming in sometimes. That was the first photo hunting with the X-A7. Hope you enjoyed the video. I enjoyed taking photos with it. Anyways, I'm Banzai. Thanks.